Hey guys, what's going on? It's Mia, and I am literally like just coming home from seeing the Batman, and I was like, I gotta get a video out now. I gotta get a non-spoiler review out, and I think I hear Batman already. No, there have literally been people, I don't know what they are doing racing outside of my street, but maybe it just adds to the atmosphere. But oh my gosh, as you can see by my energy, those cars are gonna stop me. This to me was an incredible movie, and I say this as it's kind of weird. I've always had a preference towards Marvel, but I like all superhero movies regardless of where they're from, as long as they're done well. And I mean, thinking about like my generation specifically, we grew up with like back to back Batman, like in the 90s. So I'm like, of course, it's the perfect movie for this generation. But I mean, Batman always comes back. But yeah, let's talk about the Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. Well, today is Thursday. I'm going to have this video go out on Friday just to give me some little editing time. But I just want to talk straight through and talk about some of my initial reactions to this movie. But I mean, I'm sure my energy shows it all. I'm just like, it was an intense movie. It was intense. 2 hours and 55 minutes officially, where it is just full on. Oh my gosh, Robert Pattinson brooding and fighting and being tough, and him striking fear into the hearts of others. But yeah, that's the one thing that I wanted to talk about this movie specifically, if before I talk about anything else, is just how thematically different this is from pretty much, I'd say, every Batman movie that I've seen. You know, we had kind of the early ones were kind of campy, and then, you know, Nolan came in with his masterpiece. I mean, The Dark Knight is a masterpiece. Batman is really going to town up there. And but I don't know if this picks up on this microphone, but I'll stop. And then, you know, we kind of had the Batfleck, and I felt the problem with the Batfleck was Ben Affleck, was that he just didn't have the right material, he didn't have the right backstory, so he was just kind of this generic mold. But finally, we've got a new sort of Batman, and I call him, he's like the sad boy. You know, it's very Robert Pattinson-esque. It's on brand for him. It's on brand for him kind of bringing back that Edward Cullen from Twilight just a little bit. Like, it's not super cringe, but just a little bit. It had to be ingrained in this Batman because it's this Bruce Wayne where he is really facing the music of his life and who he is, and it meld that into the whole vibe of Gotham, you know, being corrupt, being gritty and dirty, and you really have just, man, like, the best way I can explain it is intense. Not only that, but because we know Batman is like a detective, right? There's a lot of suspense going on as we begin to unravel this mystery of, you know, what's going on in Gotham City. And we know that the Riddler is the villain, as you can tell from the trailer at least. And so, you know, we're following the Riddler's clues, and it really feels like a horror movie, because here he is, you know, we've got murders going on in the city, and, you know, you're trying to figure out what's going on, who's committing them and all that. And this is like literally the most I have felt a superhero movie come to also being a horror movie. Which is kind of funny because we actually, you know, we have the New Mutants, which was kind of horror, but it was like monster horror. And then we've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Sam Raimi is directing that. He's a horror master, but this is just different. This is just like one of those, like, well, we haven't seen Multiverse of Madness yet, but what I'm trying to say is the whole vibe of this movie is just so intense, and it's so dark, like dark. And we're talking the Dark Knight here, so they perfected that to a T. So I guess the big question is Robert Pattinson a worthy Batman successor? And I say yes. And it's kind of like he melts into the role of Batman, because, you know, he takes off his mask and it's like, oh yeah, that was Robert Pattinson. I kind of forgot, but I mean, I think it's a good thing. You know, while he's Bruce Wayne, he's kind of sad and emo and goth, but he really fits the role of this, you know, crime fighter. I thought it was going to take away from it having an emo superhero, like legitimately, but No, they made it work well, and it all just again melds together. Then we have our hero and our villain, and I don't know what I want to say about the villain. Let's just say it's interesting. He's interesting. He's different. Paul Dano, I believe, like completely pretty much unknown guy, but I think he fills the role. I don't think he leaves anything to the imagination, and it. I'll probably talk more about him in our spoiler chat, but I think he did well for the role, and that's all I'll say with that. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, she was great. She filled the role, and I'm usually not the biggest Zoe Kravitz fan, but this one, I think she did a great job, and oh my gosh, her looks were really, really awesome. I'll give you that, and this kind of she adds something to it. You know, you're thinking about like Eartha Kitt and some of the other, women who have filled the role. So I'll give it to her. Anne Hathaway. She brings her own allure and mystique to it. So I'll give it to Zoe Kravitz. I mean, we've just got this long list of talents. I mean, Andy Serkis was Alfred, and Colin Farrell was the Penguin. And I completely forgot. I was sitting there in the movie theater not realizing that was him in prosthetic makeup and just looking, at least I hope no, just looking completely different. So those are all the actions. Oh, and Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. I love Jeffrey Wright. He was amazing as well. He's kind of like that Watson character where if you don't know what's going on, he's kind of there to ask those dumb questions that usually I need help understanding. And that's maybe one of just the smaller issues-ish that I had with this, and maybe it's just me, is that they slam a lot of information on you as you're going through the case and as you're, uncovering all the mysteries. And for 2 hours and 55 minutes, that's a lot for my brain, my peanut brain. So it's kind of like I was tuning out one scene because I was a little tired too. I was like, okay, if I can just rest just for a moment. And I was like, I think I just missed some important information, and I kind of had to backtrack through my head to see if I caught it. So there's a lot of information, there's a lot of pieces, but eventually it does all make sense. That might take another watch. It's not Inception level crazy, like, what is going on, but you got to pay attention. Pay attention. Gosh. Okay. So on top of that, and I've got like all these like thoughts going around in my head. I love the sets, love the scenes, very Gotham. It's always rainy and grungy and dirty and very much Chicago. I like literally drove outside from the movie theater playing the soundtrack because it was just, that cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Gotham City. And then you get a little scared and you're driving and, make sure the doors are locked. But no, scenes were awesome. Also some mix of, I think, like New York and other places, but it was perfect. The music and sound also stood out to me. I should have mentioned that at the beginning because, again, we're building this horror theme, this suspense, this darkness, and the music is very much foreboding and sometimes a little macabre and having you on the edge of your seat. And the Batman theme song you've probably heard in the trailer or anything, those notes, doom, 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 will be stuck in your head over and over and over all day. So prepare for that if you haven't seen the movie already. So I think that is it. We're going on a little long here, but yeah, it was an awesome movie. I think I'm going to see it again. You just kind of have to shake it off of you. Like, it's so dark. I was like, I'm going to need a shower after this. But once you can get back into the place where you're ready to see this movie, I think it's well worth watching again. And I'm looking forward to it. I would give this a solid A+. I have found few flaws in it. At least the good outweighs the bad. And I'm going to come back probably after the weekend with some spoiler talk, and then maybe I'll have some fresh thoughts about what didn't work or maybe what could have been a little better. But overall, the plot was awesome. The pacing, maybe that slowed it down a little bit again because it's 2 hours and 55 minutes. It was a lot to suck in, but it throws you in there. And yeah, I think I would be excited to see it again. So that's it, guys. Stay tuned for my spoiler talk. I will be back, hopefully on Monday, to talk more spoilers for the Batman. So if you enjoyed this, give me a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.